few years ago, if you were asked to define what reality is, it was pretty straightforward. But with technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, it becomes a little bit more confusing to define what reality is. So let's talk about these technologies and how it's going to affect what we do and how we do things in the future. Guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. And like I said, I want to talk about virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality. And I'm going to start with the least complex one, which is virtual reality. So technically, virtual reality is defined as a fully immersive digital environment. So what it means is that in virtual reality, every single thing you see, every single object you see in virtual reality is not real.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth?
It does not exist in the physical world. Rather, it's something that exists in the digital world. That is, it is created digitally, right? If you've seen the movie Matrix, that's a very good example of what virtual reality is. So you have these machines that plug into the actor's head, right? And then the actors are, immediately transported to a different world entirely. That world is not real. It's a digital world, right? Everything that happens in that world is digitally created. So that's what we call virtual reality. So just like the word implies, virtual reality, everything you see in that reality is virtual, it's not real, is computer generated. So a lot of gaming console already have this in place. So you have the PS5 VR, I think. So PlayStation has a VR plugin. Xbox also has VR. If you visit some gaming center, you can play VR games, right? And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So aside from the gaming industry, it's actually used in things like real estate. So for instance, if a customer, someone who is interested in buying a real estate, walks into a real estate company and he needs to inspect a property, but that property is far from the real estate company or the real estate office, right? So what they can do is hook up some virtual reality headsets and give it to the customer to wear, and then he can, virtually just see how the property is interested in looks like, right? So he can't touch those things, obviously. He can't touch the soil, he can't touch the trees in that environment, but the customer can see everything in that environment. So usually the way it is done is that there's some kind of headset that you wear on your head, and the moment you wear that headset, you are totally taken away from the real world in terms of sight, because inside the headset there's usually a screen inside the headset, and then the screen projects image directly into your eyes, and because of the proximity of the screen to your eyes, it looks like you are actually inside whatever it is that you're seeing. Some other less expensive headsets allows you to put your phone inside the headset instead as a screen. So that's virtual reality. So it's not really about, you don't really have, it's not really about the headset. It's just basically the fact that you're fully, into that digitally created world, and you can see nothing else aside from those elements in that digital world. That's what makes virtual reality virtual reality. So there are other means, and the truth is that in the future we'll have more advanced way to go about virtual reality without even having to use an headset. In the future, for instance, we can have things like contact lenses that we can just wear, and then, you are immediately transported to a virtual reality. Or probably the way it happened in Matrix, you just, sleep like in a coma, you have some things connected to your brain, and then, that thing connected to your brain can just project some things into your sight directly. So the point I'm trying to make is that the headset is not what makes it virtual reality, but the fact that you are fully, into that digital world with no sense of what is happening in the real world, in the physical world, in terms of sight. That is what makes VR. So now let's talk about augmented reality, which is a little bit different from virtual reality. So it's called AR for short. Now in augmented reality, you are still seeing the physical world. You are still seeing the real world, right? But there's an overlay of digital elements on this real world. So it means that you are seeing everything that is around you in the real world, like your TV, your fan, whatever it is that's in the real world, right? But now you are getting some additional information that comes in digital elements that are overlaid on top of this real world. So this is actually also used in the gaming industry, and it's also used in several other industries like education, the media, and the rest, right? So let me give you a good example of augmented reality. So a very good example of augmented reality is the movie Avengers. So Iron Man, whenever he wears his helmet, he begins to see some things that are not in the real world, right? He still sees the real world, but now some digital elements has been overlaid on the real world. So for instance, he can be looking at a a burning house through his helmet, and his helmet is telling him and displaying the temperature of that burning house, right? So he's seeing some additional information. So it's something that is very useful in robotics, right? So in cameras that can perform things like object detection and action recognition, color detection, and the rest, right? So imagine these cameras are working in real time, and you're looking at the environment through the camera. You begin to see some extra information about the environment. So the thing you need to note about augmented reality is that this is just an overlay of digital elements on the real world. Usually, the digital element that is being overlaid does not interact with the real world, right? And this takes me to mixed reality. So mixed reality is similar to augmented reality, but the only difference is that the digital elements that are overlaid on the real world actually interact with those objects in the real world. And this is quite interesting actually. If you look at Snapchat, for instance, Snapchat has a we see all these filters when using Snapchat where that's actually mixed reality, right? Sometimes it's some people call it AR, but it's actually mixed reality because the filters can actually interact with our face. So imagine sometimes there's some filters that when you open your mouth, then the filters automatically gives you some kind of weird looking tongue, or there's some filters that when you shake your head, it's it does something interesting, right? So those things that are overlaid on our face is a physical object, right? And those things overlaid on our face in Snapchat are actually the digital elements, right? But those digital elements can interact with the physical element. And that's why it's called mixed reality. And that's what really differentiates mixed reality from augmented reality. The fact that the digital elements that are overlaid on the real world actually interact with the object in the real world. So I'm going to round this up with something called extended reality. So extended reality is an umbrella term that describes the combination of mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality. And it's pretty interesting because in the future, in fact, we are in that future already. You must have heard about what we call metaverse, right? Probably I'm going to create an episode rather for to talk about extensively on metaverse. But what I want to say right now is that extended reality is going to be a key component of the metaverse. The metaverse is basically the internet of the future, and unlike how we currently interact with the internet through our keyboard, through our mouse, through our computer screen, we are going to interact with the internet or with metaverse through extended reality, through virtual reality, with some additional technologies, right? Thank you for listening to today's episode. So if you've not done this yet, I would love you to like my video. Even if you don't like what I said, just please just like the video just to encourage me or something. So like the video, subscribe, and then turn on notification. Well, I've always wanted to say this. Like my video, subscribe, and then turn on notification. And trust me, I have a lot of interesting topics to talk about on this channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.